Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PCS Summer Playoffs here. After waiting a few days, of course, we're back. We had to have a little bit of a break after watching Frank and Impunity take a breath of fresh air. Nightstar and I joining us back in. Kind of true there, as sponsored by CDBC Bank and China Airlines. Big thanks to Riot Games, Carry Live, and Garena for the operation and full production of the league. Nightstar, it is good to have you back because considering we were the ones here last time, going through that lower bracket, I guess we finally progress upwards to see how the top dogs in the league right now are doing.
Yeah, a little bit of continuity, right? Ended the week with us, start the week with us. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what our top seeds will bring to the table today and tomorrow, PSG and DCG. And these are two teams that, when we look at them, say, you know what? This coaching staff with the extra week of preparation,
yeah,
we're very excited to see what they can actually bring out with this extra week of prep.
That's true, because, like, honestly, you've already seen Beyond Gaming, especially for DCG's side. This is a team that is debuting, finishing second in the regular season, and, you know, it's been such a good split for DCG. I feel like we've seen this year has been massive for them, with us bringing up the bracket for you to kind of look at what we're talking about. Again, DCG Beyond Gaming will be coming up today. A little bit hard to track, but just note that PSG and CFO will be tomorrow. And Nightstar today is all about who can make it into that semifinals in this upper bracket as well.
Yeah, winners of both of these upper bracket matches will put themselves locked in for top 3, which means you are just one step away from that world slot. It's top 2 in our league that do go to Worlds. So it's a huge step just to win this game. And if you do so, like, literally Worlds is right around the corner.
True. I mean, look, we're getting so close, right? 4th of September that final is. So, as you said, right around the corner. And a lot of people are kind of expecting the old favorites like PSG. I feel like, you know, Beyond, for people that don't watch PCS throughout the year, they're going to be like, man, yeah, this team's going to be making it through. But that depends on today, right? A much easier run, double elimination makes it so that you do get a second chance. And we're split down the middle with Clement and Pyro deviating off the plan. I'm not sure what's going on, but they must have believed in quite a lot after watching the J-Team victory.
Clement and Pyro were very high on the J-Team train.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's because they still think very highly of J-Team, you know.
Okay.
Transitive property, right?
True. That means they must be, you know, one of the best teams in the league. It means Beyond are even better than that.
Exactly.
But look, first we have to talk about DCG though, right? Because as we were saying before, it's been a really good year for them. Deep Cross Gaming have been one of the funnest teams to watch because of their drafting strategies, but also because of how they play the early game, like this bloody aggressive team, Nightstar. We talk so much about their skirmishing and how they can get through the intricacies of draft. And I feel like here in the best of 5, that should be honed to an even higher degree.
This is a fun team to watch, not necessarily because they are the most flashy in lane, but because they're very much a team that's better than the sum of their parts, right?
Yeah.
You look at Nesty, he is not a very good laner. Leaky, Cruscata, yes, there's some upside to them, but they're still very young. They're still developing, and Cruscata, not necessarily the flashiest laner as well. So a lot of this success predicates around how well they work around each other with the skirmishing, with the team fighting capabilities. And of course, the highlight player in this particular roster is Leaky, but we'll touch more on that in a bit.
Yeah, because with Beyond Gaming coming fresh off a win of J-Team, there's a lot of high hopes for the fans out there that want to see them return to Worlds. It'd be such a crazy story after what has been a really weak split. Beyond finished just outside that bubble where we were talking about, all right, here's our top teams, then it's Meta Falcon team, then it's Impunity. You know, Beyond finishing 6th to double check. It's just insane to me when we look at the talent on this roster, and it might not be Doggo, but Wako is still in competent for one of the better 80 carries in the league, mixed in with the new talent that's joined in the roster too.
Yeah, and when we compare rosters, what they brought to the table last year, and then with all the changes, bringing in Lee Kai, and having Liang sort of ride the bench, it's been a bit of growing pains, especially in the spring split, where they didn't find a lot of success. But suddenly, you know, we have the summer split and they are starting to find their stride. and at the most crucial time, right? They were pretty hot coming into the end of the split, finding upset wins in some of our top teams. And now the meta is starting to shift in a direction where all of a sudden they're also adapting and really taking well to the new changes.
Which is good to see, right? Like strength of lane, Beyond Gaming not just being a one-dimensional team. We can talk more about their team statistics, but for now, as you said before, it is going to be about these top laners. Lakai versus Leaky. Leaky, for a lot of the international casters for PCS, putting him as one of the most improved, putting him as one of the best top laners in the split. That Mordekaiser Nightstar is 4-0 at the moment, and there's a reason that this guy holds the majority of damage on DCG.
Yeah, Leaky is the really big carry for this squad. Cascada does play some role into it as well, but Leaky is that highlight player. And for on the flip side, for BYG, Leaky is not really the highlight player for this squad. Yes, he's got a diversity of picks, and lately he's added the Fiora to his repertoire, which I think is going to be a key thing to keep track of in this pick and ban. But as you can see from the stats, he doesn't get a ton of gold in his hands, and he isn't that lane dominant. He doesn't get a lot of jungle attention, and that's why gold difference by the time plates fall off is he's just trying to go even.
Yep. So it feels like then we should start talking about like the reason why he's in that head-to-head as we go into pick ban is because he'll have to survive Leaky. It feels like that's how DCG could take over one part of the map. But if BYG can stem that off, then for Lakai, that team fighting we know him for, you know, the Gnar, the Gwen, the Sejuani, all things we saw. But you also mentioned so far in playoffs, the Fiora's come out too. So there's a lot of versatility for Lakai as we start the pick ban, actually with a Renekton ban on red side, making sure that Leaky isn't able to start off game one with something that can power through the lane that we talked about.
Yeah, the Renekton, very powerful pick. And if you're not allocating resources up top lane, Renekton is definitely one of those champions that can just steamroll you during the early game and really take control of the game from there. So I like the ban, and BYG also go ahead and ban away the Poppy, which is probably the strongest jungler still on this patch.
Yeah, it really is. Aligned with that, though, the Poppy down, Vi's there. Something in the LPL we have seen from teams like RNG, EDG is first pick worthy. And on the other side, with no Wukong as well, Nightstar, jungle is a little bit more limited, but the bottom lane isn't when we consider that PCS still loves this Kalista in 12-14.
Yeah, and our teams haven't quite adjusted over to picking up the Draven as well, which would be one of those picks that is able to really dominate the lane. And also remember, this is 12-14, so Kalista hasn't been nerfed yet, which is what we do see on 12-15.
Yep.
Which is why she is still going to be very, very present in our drafts. BYG will also look to get themselves a Sylas. So when it comes to this mid-pool, Nesty, Minji, they really like the Sylas and they really like the Talia. 2 picks I expect to see exchanged to a certain degree early on, and maybe we see adjustments later in the series. But
you wanted to see this though. You wanted to see it. And you know, you were being like, oh, probably from like Wako and Kino, right? We talk about lane dominance. Chris Carter and Woody, as you said in rehearsal, play the role of like team fighting to back up the late game carry in the AD. This time focus on the 2v2 here, Nightstar. It is something that does well into the Kalista, but I like this adaptation. The Ashe support is something that does well into Renata.
Yeah, and it also gives them double range to sort of mitigate the situation against the double range bot lane of DCG. The big question will be what do they add in the jungle pool to try and help alleviate the pressure, because right now DCG level 6 with the Vi, that is just free cash in right then and there. It is almost impossible to escape, especially as the Kalista point and click CC right onto you and chain it straight into the follow-up CC from DCG is surely a cash in for the Draven. So BYG, they need to come up with something nice here for a jungler to try and help mitigate that bot lane pressure.
They've already taken away some of the flex, so we have been seeing more Sejuani internationally play between jungle top. With that one taken down, Jarvan's still there. We got Trundle, of course, which is a big deal that Beyond Gaming have been denied too. You're talking about global mid laners here. It's a double ban actually out from BYG's side. Well, now they have to think about, do they want top counter pick or do they want the jungle as a last resort? hovering over what's left. What can Husha do when his Wukong's not there? I mean, it's so limited, Nightstar.
Yeah, the Xin is going to be the next one up for Husha. He does like this champion. He played a lot last year and was quite successful on this champ. And it's just one of those champs that team fights really, really well. And BYG love their team fight sort of junglers. They haven't gone as much over towards the Vi because while she offers a lot of dual potential and pick potential, can suffer a little bit once we do get to that 5v5 stage, but also a champion that really thrives in that is of course the Swing, which is going to be a lock-in for Nesteel. So as things stand, maybe we even see the blind pick Mordekaiser.
Yeah, maybe, right? We talked about it being 4-0 so far in the split. Leaky has the opportunity, but maybe going to play it safe. And so far, I mean, DCG love this draft, Nightstar. BYG have to go close quarters. It's not like a draft that's going to really hard outrange. DCG are going to love it when you come into them with a Swain, a Renata, a Vi as well. I know on the other side for BYG, I guess, trying to compile their CC. Lakai has got the counter pick here, and maybe that adds a bit more element of effect in the top side as he takes the Aatrox last.
And both of these compositions are fairly low range. So this should be very, very explosive team fights. So the early game will be incredibly pivotal in order to just carve out leads and advantages to make sure they can maintain those when it comes to the team fights.
Yeah.
And Lekai getting counterpick in this situation, going towards the Aatrox, has an okay matchup up top lane, right? It's most likely into a tank. We'll see what the build path goes. Definitely could go for the Night Harvester build from the side of Leaky, and maybe that adds a little bit more burst potential to the composition.
Yeah.
I really love how both these drafts end up shaping up because of how team fight heavy this will be, and with both of these teams' identities mostly focused around that, sets up for a great game one.
It does, right? DCG's debut as well. So we've been waiting for a while to see if this team could continue on with what they started in the split. Second place finish, played the tiebreaker against J-Team, and secured themselves a top 2 for summer. Again, they're in this position because of it with a second round start, and all they need is one best of 5 to run into semifinals, 2 best of 5s to lock in Worlds as well, Nightstar. It's a simple format. You make your way all the way through to the finals, and we're looking at our representatives. DCG versus Beyond Gaming. Beyond, who just beat J-Team as well. If you're tuning into the PCS for the first time, BYG finished 6th. They had a rough split and was so inconsistent, but that performance against J-Team cleaned up the macro, feels like a brand new team in the BO5s. As we come up against DCG, it might not be as cut and dry as we once expected. So welcome back to the PCS with the beginning of round 2. The beginning of DCG's journey, if they can make it past BYG. And we're talking a little bit before Nightstar, the composition's short range here as well. Bottom lane feels very impactful in this game because, you know, we talked a lot about Draven before coming into show today, talking about it as a response to things like Zeri, into Kalista as well. Cascada's going to have a lot of attention.
And this is a setup that DCG haven't necessarily played during the regular split, and that's really focus all their resources down into the bottom lane. A lot of times it's about Hana establishing a little bit of pressure and then allowing that bot lane duo to sort of coast into that mid game where Cascada's team fight capabilities start to really shine, and that is for the most part the focus from DCG. But here they do need to make things happen a little bit earlier and get that first cash in for Cascada.
It's going to be a big deal. As talking a little bit about the Ashe support as well, Halo Blade's going to be taken here. In competitive play so far, it's really only been Halo Blades, as the 3-hit trade is so frustrating to verse. But so is versing a Draven. So bottom lane eyes there for the time being. And as you said, strange for DCG considering that Leaky is on a very supportive tank up in the top side. We talk so much about his laning stats coming into this Nightstar, but this is going to be a game which goes completely against the grain as he's going up against Lakai, who got the counter pick in the Aatrox.
Yeah, and Leaky on this counter pick will also need to try and carve out some leads here. Perhaps they throw out or they bring Husha up top lane early. Husha, definitely one of those junglers who has paid attention to his solo lanes more often than not.
Yep.
They tend to leave this bot lane more so to their own devices, and it's about resetting wave states whenever he does visit these solo lanes to get them good back timings and constantly refresh their sustained resources. As Husha's going in for a pretty late invade, he already knows the red buff was going down.
Just wants to take away the Raptor camp. Smite's still there for Hana. Just depends if he can get anything, and a little bit late. Takes the small Raptors at the very least, and Hana's bullied out. But topside camp to go to while Husha tries to control the terrain in the bottom lane, but Hana's not giving up yet, Nightstar.
And I still like this setup here coming in from BYG,
Oh,
but
great.
Husha,
Oh, handshake's great as well. There's the Vault Breaker. So smart from Hana. First blood over to the Vi, and Waka have to flash away from the Sovereign's domination. DCG, what a beautiful entrance to the series.
and BYG, I like the setup there, right? We shoo out the Vi, and then we set ourselves up bot lane to make sure they can't continue to push their advantages. But DCG, they read it, and now they want more.
And look, with the handshake there, the cleanse won't matter. Early cash in, no denied still. Chris Carter, though, still being able to pick up the goal. There's the Vault Breaker yet again onto Kino. DCG start with a 2-0 lead here. A big deal taking the AD out of the bottom line.
That is massive wins coming in for DCG, up 2-0. They've got big advantages for this Draven now. He gets to reset for free, refill his stock of sustain. And on the flip side, Wako Kino put on a double range matchup. This is one of those matchups that is extremely volatile, right? Once you fall behind, the ganks any visit from anyone, and DCG do like to send multiple members, it's going to be a tough sledding here for Kino on this range support of that.
And it's kind of crazy as we look towards mid. Might have to hold the thought for the time being because Nessie is trying to bring Hana in, but the wave pushing up against the turret's going to take some time. And, you know, quickly talking about the bottom lane, that start, though, all down to Hana. I feel like we didn't get to talk about Hana because, you know, jungle of the split was looked at like, you know, Hoosh is a top tier. Who did you vote for, Nightstar? I'm blanking a little bit here.
I had
Gemini.
Gemini, and of course, Cormier.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, I'll be honest. You know, I feel like Hana deserves a bit of respect. I saw another blocker chain where international casters were throwing Hana's name into the mix. Had a really strong split start, and you know, with that first blood, has been able to pick up a bit of grievous wounds early on. So feels like that pathing does everything for the bottom lane that you were talking about. As they push the wave in, they might not have a big CS lead, but it's still so much pressure down here that Husha might have to hover a bit more than he was intending.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Hana, the big thing is he's not very flashy, especially compared to the other three aforementioned junglers, right?
True.
Gemini is extremely good mechanically. Husha is extremely explosive in team fights. And then Konya is just such a big name. And the amount of early game impact he has is also not to be slouched upon as well. So because of the flashier aspects of the aforementioned junglers, it does feel like Hana does get left out.
Well, we're going to see him in another play, though, Nightstar. 3v3 in the bottom lane. They know Kino's in the brush. Relying on the Halo Blades here. The volley doesn't work out. They started off. They poked forward. The Vault Breaker held onto Kino walking into brush. But it's going to time out. Husha's still waiting around. They're still sus about this, but I mean, Hana just walks down to the edge. We're just waiting this. Kino's going to walk in right about now. Hello. All right, Husha now spotted out, though, and the Vault Breaker's going to stop the play, but they've got good chase up. Wind becomes lightning for a bit of poke, so the 3v3 just ends in a trifle.
Good chunk of damage. And DCG still looking to get a little bit feisty here. It is a pretty sizable wave, so they are taking a non-irrelevant amount of damage coming in from those ranged minions. But BYG, with the extra priority down in that bot lane, shift their attention over to this dragon. And we've had much later dragons in playoffs because of the dragon changes, a lot tankier. But BYG looking to...
Yeah, let's pause. Okay, Vault Breaker falls to the flash. Can they, though?
Hana
Hana flashes out, and Yeah, that's going to be an easy smite. BYG turn for the play, but DCG far out. There's the heal. The flash winner comes lightning. The handshake. Woody so far stepping up clutch, and BYG are out of range.
Yeah, and love the disengage coming in from DCG as Minji finds the timing window, and they might try and force the issue even further, having the man advantage and also health bar advantages.
There is a Demonic Ascension now available on Minji, though Nesty has his own, and a heal available to Chris Carter is sitting against the turret with low mana as Woody with the handshake yet again. Demonic Ascension for Ascension, but under turret, that'll be the problem. Minji gets slowed on down, but they're blown up in a matter of seconds. A double over to Husha and BYG with a gutsy play that works out in the end.
And these are the bold sort of team fights that we expect to see out of BYG. They have the extra man advantage coming in from Minji. They bring him down, and this is a massive, massive win because not only do they get all 3 kills, one of those kills is onto Cruscata, which on a Draven can be so deadly here and just making sure he doesn't ever get to play the game.
Yeah, denied adoration and forced to flash away as well. Nesty with a solid attempt, as at least it helps straight off in the end, but Wako got a kill there. And what we didn't talk about before the dive in the bottom lane is that there's a 20 CS lead on Wako.
Yeah.
Through the lane, you know, we saw Chris Carter getting very low after the 2 kills that came bot. But what we didn't talk about was the fact that Wako came back to lane, was able to shove out and deny Chris Carter from picking up a couple of waves. So forget the earlier plays. Doesn't matter too much as BYG actually ahead in gold, and it's got to be to do with Wako maintaining a huge CS gap.
Yeah, and it came from the fact that, okay, Minji looking for a short trade. It came from the fact that when they started out, the Dragon, Cruscata actually had to give up a bit to make that roam over, and that play doesn't go very well because they lose the Dragon, then they reset, or they try to get back to the tower to farm the wave, and then they die. So they just lost so much extra gold there, and again, even though this was a pick that sort of came out of left field in the Draven, how it's played out, again, harkens to DCG. They might not necessarily be comfortable in just force-feeding Cruscata all this resources quite yet.
Yeah, we did talk about a different dynamic as they were left in the bottom lane while the Herald play went down, but BYG didn't fully commit. Wako and Kinnan moved back bottom lane and denied the plate from being taken as a response, and that's the second objective here in the start of the series that BYG have picked up. So really good early game, really good response to the intelligent gank path from Hana. And now with the 2 kills Xin Zhao, excuse me, and a Gore Drinker, all we have to do is wait for this Herald and just see where the blood flies really at this point from BYG, because we did talk about the dynamics of both these teams being fast as Arrow, good dodge there at the end, yeah, good dodge. And coming back to the point is that, you know, once both these comps start rolling, it feels like games can happen pretty fast.
Yeah, once these fights do start going, the snowball is going to happen pretty darn quickly. And the other thing is, there's not a lot of tower taking capabilities on these teams, right? When it comes to sieging towers, because they're all super low range. Therefore, we're gonna have fight after fight around these big key objectives in order to actually decide the game because of how low range these competitions are.
Just look at the goal that was given over to the bottom lane. BYG taking all 4 plays, at least in conjunction with what Wako already did. And the pressure's still down on the bottom side. DCG are hovering their jungler, but Nightstar, I mean, Hoosh is moving up towards mid. You can see that BYG are following, moving as a bit of a unit here, trying to find a pick that will continue to open up again.
Hoosh is spotted out by this control ward, and now we'll take it away, and the amount of control here coming in from BYG is pretty nuts so far.
Oh, nice. Oh, Leaky missed, though. Went the wrong direction as Lakai had to burn ulti and flash at the very least. So not going to be the end of the world unless Lakai does that. Leaky forced flash away while we look back in the bottom lane. The 3v3 continues on. Husha with huge items at this point. Hostile takeover, hitting max range, but it won't do a thing. 1 auto onto Kino, that's it. Health bar, disadvantage. Leaky is just going to get 1 shot at this point. 1 Q, 1 W, and Lakai with the solo kill. Meanwhile, BYG are taking off.
And Hysterics, that was the first time we got to see top lane. this entire game. And Lee Kai comes up clutch, comes out with a solo kill. This is a guy who has suffered endlessly in lane phase this entire year, but now Minji...
Oh, he's there. He's got flash still available. And Hana has to burn the ulti, but hey, at least get the mid lane summoner.
Another dragon.
Well, yeah, double dragon, early stacking here. Beyond Gaming, I mean, this is such a clutch comeback. Husha doubling down in the bottom lane. You got to respect it here, because BYG know how to play towards bot anyway.
Yeah, and typically when you have that first play bite you in the back that hard, which was when they pulled Husha down towards that Krugs area and got caught out, usually you just kind of say, all right, we'll play elsewhere. Let's go and look at Lee Kai, because he does have an advantageous lane, right? So we can play around that, but no. BYG, they decide, hey, we can execute better. We can just do better than what just happened there. And so far, it is paying off, and it does showcase that DCG maybe a little bit of rust with the extra 2 weeks, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, they haven't played yet. This is their first debut, and honestly, as you said, it shows. Leaky gonna get spotted out in the ward too. I mean, BYG kind of covering their tracks a bit too. As Leaky tries to move towards mid, Hana goes in for a steal. It's small wins at the moment. And I will say, Hana does have a CS lead, 14 in the jungle. We look towards mid with a 10 CS lead, but you look everywhere else. The solo kill that just happened for top, the 30 CS lead in the bottom side. And just look at the item differential right now, Nightstar. BYG on 3 mythics, that'll be 4 shortly from Lakai. And when we have another Herald coming up in a minute 30, there's so much power in BYG, as we said, is taking off nice and early.
And this is massive advantages for them right now. You talk about the mythic advantage, but also the fact that they secured the first 2 dragons this early in the game in a meta where dragon takes are supposed to be harder. We're supposed to take a lot more time to get those objectives secured. But they secure the dragons 2 minutes before our playoff measuring stick, which has been 9 minutes. We took that first dragon at 7, and now we have the second one at 12, and now they want
We're doing it again. We're doing it again, but this time he doesn't have flash, so you can see it with the assault and battery. They cease and desist, and Minji surviving for a long time, but Nesty ends up getting the kill. So gold back here for DCG. But you look at Beyond Gaming trying to hit an avenue in top in mid. We'll have to see if there comes a trade as Chris Carter walks on forward, but I'd be scared. Wako's damage in return is still too much.
Husha, he is trying to shoot Leaky off that tower and will be successful. So yeah, that trade in the mid lane. We do have the Essence Reaver completed by Cascada. However, we're still looking for that first cash-in to happen for him. He is rebuilding those stats at 15 minutes into the game, but he still will be lagging even if he does find a cash-in later on. And Wako, with the tier 2 boots, is extremely powerful with that shield bow. So big advantages for BYG for this upcoming fight, and I feel like for DCG, you probably don't fight this Herald in that case.
But they're feeling like they got a group anyway. I mean, pings are coming down. Relying on Leaky here as the tankiest member in the game. That's perfect. Never move. Hana flashing forward, though. Bit of a mistake. Zephyros gets him, but a beautiful ult from Woody as they're sent around. Minji's ulti doing so much more than the other Swains as they run into close range, but Nesting now even going golden. Has to flash to save his life, and even then it won't be enough. Beautiful stuff from Minji, and BYG countering hard.
And they thought they had the pick onto Wako, and it looks like this was a fight that decided DCG could win because of how they were able to zone off Wako. Wasn't able to get many autos in that case, but their solo laners are just so strong. Likai joining in after the engage comes through. Husha already out to a Gore Drinker, extremely oppressive in these team fights, especially comparatively to that Vi. And of course, the highlight is Silas being able to do swaying things, but better.
Really good never move here, but I mean, the problem is, Nightstar, you have one damage source, it's Chris Carter, because your Swain is building support.
Yeah, great first item power spike, but it really is more about facilitating more damage coming in for the rest of his team. And you see here, even in this fight, Wako gets 3 autos. So they essentially killed him off at the start of the fight, but that still wasn't enough to swing the tides. As you can see, the damage output is just really, really high from both of these mid laners, but the difference is the Xin just carves up so much space in comparison to the Vi, who also got locked down and I don't believe got the ult off on a priority target.
And with that space as well makes it easier. And Chen across the arrow, speaking of the Devil, the explosive cast, doing enough to get him out. But Makai, he flushes out with the ult. He's been caught out and shut down. Criscata, the next target, he's bailed out, but needs a reset and won't get it yet again. Nesty is surviving for a long time, but BYG pick apart the pieces. Minji is on a tear, and they've got so many avenues to play. As right now, it feels like DCG can't do anything.
Oh man, this game does feel a little bit out of hand, and when I looked at these two teams, BYG, I had a sneaky dark horse pick when it comes to just how this playoffs would shape out, because when I evaluated my teams, I looked at, hey, the most successful teams are probably going to be the teams that can team fight the best, and my top three would be PSG, DCG, and BYG. They sneak in to that category, and you see why. And looking at this current form, they are definitely in a position to make semifinals and once again enter their name into the world's conversation. But for DCG, I do feel like it's a bit of an anomaly because of the fact that they put Criscata on this Draven. Most likely going into the next game, if they do drop this game, they'll probably drop the Draven and go into a more team fight oriented AD carry.
Yeah, it's so crazy because like Criscata has been the late game insurance policy. I feel like early game we've talked a lot about Leaky's laning, we've talked a lot about Nesty's roaming and how he can impact the map. And you know, the Swain, we've got an Imperial Mandate which is pretty standard. I gotta correct myself. You know, Criscata's not the only damage source, but because you're going Mandate, because you're not, you know, a Leandri Swain, you feel like the use is going to be limited. And you know, for DCG Nightstar, Criscata hasn't been able to free hit. He hasn't been able to pick the perfect positioning. The picks haven't come through. Outside of the one on Lakai, that was a good start. But every single time we see these fights play out, Minji, Husha, Wako get space. And this Ashe, right? Ashe has Mandate. You press Volley, and if Volley hits multiple targets, it gets multiple Mandates. It's the one thing people forget, is that Ashe supports press W, and it mandates everything because it's one ability.
Yeah, it's just so damn powerful, and it's also the fact that you get a bunch of move speed too, so it helps Wako out kite these fights. It allows Minji to stick on people. Now they collapse.
Yeah, they just spotted out. They thought they were hiding around the wall. Woody's dead, and as Minji goes golden, it could be a turn. It relies on Nesty though as Minji gets out the back, but he's chased up, and a good cash in from Criscata. BYG very deep here as Lakai's about to run out of the World Ender too. A trade for support for mid, and especially a trade onto Criscata. That's how DCG get back in this game.
It is that cash in, however, not a ton of stacks for Criscata, so I don't think
it's 1K gold.
Okay, yeah. So
shut down onto Minji as well. Remember, so we got 600 plus 400 in the end.
Yeah. The shutdown was a key part there, and that actually propels him into the second net worth in the game. So he's still lagging behind Wako on the Kalista. But the big thing here is if Wako does go too far up, Draven does have the damage now to punish mispositions because of that extra gold influx. So that will be key in making sure if they get onto that Kalista, they're actually able to burst it up.
He was able to turn the Serrated Dirk into an Essence Reaver plus a pickaxe. So we are getting quite a big power surge, as to your point, from Criscata. But we have to see it again because BYG were the ones that made the mistake. They're still 4,000 in the lead. They're still the ones who, in an open space, as you talked about with Husha's ulti and how he's playing the Xin Zhao, they can control the environment. And BYG know that DCG have to come and face check, have to come and meet them at the Dragon in 2.5 minutes.
And the other thing is, they don't have a great face-checking champion, right? You could put in the Nest, you can put in the Swain, but for the most part, it's going to be up to Hana, and Hana, He's not really one of... Okay,
Oh no,
they cut him out.
He's vault breaking into the wall. He missed the flash. Hard has missed everything. He's trying to turn it around. Could be good. Explosive card sets it up, but Minji keeps taking his Swain ulti with a hostile takeover to start it up, and Nesty carrying with a good pull in. He turns on Akino, but the Faith Call saves his life while Minji still isn't dead. Lakai's pulled on in. Nesty is trying his hardest to carry, but Wako stays alive. Ends with the kill, and BYG punishing Hana, who seemed to punish himself in that play.
And Minji goes for the recall, has the teleport to get back into this fight. So he's channeling teleport, and now they're looking to try and pick one more member off. If they do so, that really opens up the Baron chances.
And look, there we go. Double Imperial Mandate. Minji just jumps on top. Woody with a bailout, but a chain lash to finish off out of range. Leaking out running for his life. Well, Chris Carter does jump in. He gets a shutdown, but he's traded his life. Explosive cast dunk in the meanwhile. BYG still ahead. We can quote and look at Chris Carter and his success, Night Star, but BYG keep taking names and it's not stopping.
Chris Carter able to flash forward and secure himself one more kill, but the issue is, it's his flash is now down for this crucial Mountain Dragon that's coming up in 50 seconds. We get to see the replay, the catch onto Hana. They block out the Vault Breaker, then they interrupt him. He also flashes into a wall.
He does.
But this Renata ultimate bought a lot of time, sectioned them off quite well, that they almost had the opportunity, but because of Lee Kai's approach here, they're zoned off of helping out their mid laner. Nesty is caught out in no man's land as a result, and the side of BYG are able to secure man advantage. They teleport in, continue to pull off the play, but DCG, importantly, able to stop Baron in that instance, but it doesn't change the fact that there's still 5k gold down. Cascada has no summoners.
Yep.
This is an objective they have to contest this area.
As you said, no summoners available. Nesty, the only one with Flash, or Woody as well, excuse me. As the Nevermove brings in Lakai back in, but he just turns onto Leaky. And as we also mentioned, for the choke, it's going to be great for BYG. They've got the Enchanted Crystal Arrow available. Baiting in the Dragon here. DCG still there as Lakai with the ulti and the flash available. He's zoning off everyone. Minji over the wall with the Everfrost, still buying time. Hana tries to get over, but there you go, Mountain Soul. One-man hostile takeover. The arrow hits the Gragas, but BYG have already picked up the Soul. Nesty flashes on in on top of Kino. Minji takes the Demon Flare as well. He's ascended with an explosive cast. They're not taking enough damage. Chris Carter's trying though, as this Draven still punching out a little bit now, but zoned out, hit hard, and Minji's taken over this game. BYG keep it running. It might have started with J-Team, but it looks like it's continuing against DCG.
And BYG absolutely ruffle stomping this game number 1 against the side of DCG. So once we get into the replay, we'll see the composition from DCG, especially when you lose Mountain Soul, just doesn't have the oomph to actually take these team fights. They don't have the single target damage because of how far behind Cascada is, and they don't have the AoE wombo potential either because they are running a Swain in the mid lane. So replay comes through, Lee Kai just occupying so much of the space, they can't get through this choke point, so they take so long to do so. And when they finally do, the Dragon's already taken. Hana goes all the way into the backline to try and just occupy Wako, but that's not the move because the rest of the team is just so damn strong with Minji and with Lee Kai, the amount of sustain they have. If you're not applying the grievous wounds in that fight, you just can't take these champions down.
This is what I'm talking about, dude. Team fights with Ashe, early Imperial Mandate, 4k damage.
Filthy.
Like, a couple of autos weaved into there, but yeah, it is. Because all you have to do is press W, keep space. 18 out of 20 kill participation as well for Kino. And we've been talking about Woody in this game for some pretty good ultis, really good early handshakes as well. But Kino's played this pretty clean. The Ashe counter into Renata yet again showing why it's picked. And now for BYG with the Baron, I feel like we're going to see a lot more arrows come out as they hold a 10k gold lead. A Mountain Soul here, Night Star. I feel like the onslaught is only just beginning.
especially with the side of DCG hitting a power drop. They don't have an answer to the side lane pressure being offered up by Minji on the flip side. So this is where their composition is going to run into a lot of trouble because they don't have a way to just start a fight. Salt and Battery coming in, the Vi ultimate isn't going to be enough because very well Hana could just die trying to get into the back line while he's traveling with that ultimate.
Just a note on the arrow as well, 37, about 40-second cooldown at this point, Caulfield's Warhammer, and we have the full support item. So Kino, it's already half off of its CD, so expect another one to come through in the next push up in the top lane, while Minji's holding bot side, level 16, just reached here by this Silas, and BYG now, Husha's escorting midway, so all three are going to be crashing at the same time. One of these inhib turrets are going down.
Yeah, and Hana really wants to go on to Husha, but his team isn't close enough to follow up if they were trying to force a pick there. And now it's just really boils down to Hana, Nesty to try and find an engage. Maybe Leaky able to get a flash Grog Assault to find a pick. But that's it.
Okay, well, his fate's called, saved out there. Inhibitor turret number 1, inhibitor turret number 2. In quick fall like dominoes. Minji now is going to get the inhibitor absolutely for free. Leaky can't stop him. The rest of DCG are trying to pick a target, and they're like, hey, maybe now we go for Husha, but the rest of BYG move towards mid. Wako's arrow was actually fired out before, by the way, so there's another tool that's down, but all three inhibitor turrets and BYG playing the macro so cleanly. Okay, all right, Chris Carter walked in, and Husha runs on in, and it might be it, in fact, as the cease and desist flies from Hana, but he does no damage. The Mountain Soul makes short work as the big carry's now down. 4 versus 5 of the rest of this game, but I don't think this game's going on much longer. As Waiko starts firing at the turret, the wave's going to be escorted in. And Deep Cross Gaming are our second seed, but Beyond Gaming are making them look foolish here in the first game of the series. As Hana's up next, to the menu flies Leaky. And Beyond Gaming, there's just something in the water of the BO5 because this team has changed their outlook completely running into playoffs, and I'm all about it as they beat down the second seed in game 1.
BYG, there's a reason why I put him as that dark horse because of their execution around these team fights, and it just keeps getting better and better. BYG, they take game number 1, and it's not even close. The one blip was that level 3 moment, right? Down in that bottom lane, taking the Krugs. Husha does get caught out. They collapse upon it, and that was the last we saw of DCG in this game.
It's sad.
Because after that, it was just choke out after choke out.
Yeah, I was saying it's sad because the early game from Deep Cross Gaming, it's like, okay, they played towards bottom side, they freed up bottom lane, but first of all, Chris Carter didn't get the kill. He didn't get an early cash in no matter how small and meager the gold would have been, but he doesn't get that gold. I feel like the second part as well is the response from Husha as well. You know, it was so clean. Rinse and repeat the bottom lane summoners that we use, punish them, and get these early dragons stacking. And Chris Carter was a big damage source, and Deep Cross Gaming, as you said, Nightstar, are a team that play towards solo lanes, especially when we look at Nesty roaming across the map, when we look at, you know, that top lane being the core carry on the Gragas. Like, what do you do there? Options weren't the same as Deep Cross Gaming played in the BO1s in regular season.
Yeah, and we can see how Lee Kai's development in the previous series led to perhaps the Gragas being taken, right? Because if this was during regular split, he for sure just goes for the Mordekaiser and says, you're not going to play the Fiora, but because he played the Fiora in the last game, looked pretty darn good on it, all of a sudden it changes the calculus and how you start to draft, because now you can't go for an Ornn, for some of these not so dominant laners, because if you give Fiora that airspace, she does just run you over and take over the game.
I feel like, you know, blue side for a lot of teams is great, but when you have really prominent solo laners, I don't know, DCG might be one of those teams where where red side is more impactful. You know, blue side at the moment, you were saying before coming in playoffs, it's already got a big win rate. I know in LPL, it's just insane at the moment. It's so silly. Globally, let's be real.
Yeah.
But Nightstar, I mean, DCG might be one of those teams that need the counter pick for their solo lanes and are willing to play the trade-off in bot because Chris Carter and Woody aren't the strong 2v2 that, you know, we kind of look at Wako and Kino as.
Yeah, Wako Kino, or Kino, historically, back when he had Doggo, they were always looking for those 2v2 kills.
Yep.
And Wako, also an extremely lane-dominant player. So it fits their playstyle to play more of the Draven. However, in this first game, it was DCG that picked it up. It ended up flopping considerably. This is one of those cases where you can plan as well as you can plan, which is exactly what DCG are good at. And they saw that, hey, they want to take Krugs, they want to choke out this bot lane, we collapse upon it, right? But no matter how good that plan is, it all goes up in smoke once you take that first haymaker to the chin.
Okay, we're watching one of the Dragon plays. This is a little bit later on, and it feels like, I know this is the first one actually, Nightstar, to correct myself, but there were so many moments like this where for DCG, it was just a question as to why are they contesting, what play they're making across the map, like what's the forward-thinking strategy of this team, where Beyond were always thinking about what play they could make next, to be blunt.
Yeah, and the numbers advantage here, the kills here at this tower really doomed the bot lane. Because you look at the wave, the fact that they kill Cascada, he gets denied this entire 2 waves here.
Yep.
And then the waves are also, of course, bouncing back towards him, towards Wako. Like, Wako took that advantage and never looked back. And of course, the other player, the factor in was Kino on this Ashe pick. We don't know him as this range support player, but in this particular game on the Ashe, he was actually their siege. He was the one autoing towers when they were setting up the 1-3-1 or the 1-4, and he played the range to perfection.
He did. It's so easy when, you know, Minji Swain ult here all game long. Like, there was no other ult that Minji took. He always picked up the Demonic Ascension. And I have to say, in the end, like, even though Nesty seemed like the strongest member of DCG, better Swain wins. You know, Minji had such a good game on the Sylas, and it sits into his champion pool, Nightstar. And we look at a lot of things like the Ahri, the Akali, the Sylas that, you know, Minji always, well, pretty much looks good on.
Yeah, and it's a little bit unfortunate we don't get 12-15 because of the fact that Akali did get buffed, right? But if Beyond Gaming make the dream run happen from the 6th seed position, Akali's back in flavor for Worlds, so
true.
That would be very, very exciting. But that's thinking a little bit too far for ourselves here.
Well, I mean, look, for BYG, maybe not. With the way they're playing, maybe not. Like, Minji's damage, yeah, insane. But this is why I love Ashe support. This is why, for anyone out there, it feels like Freelo still in the live patch. Just go and play it. Do yourself a favor. Because the ability to playmate through lane as well, having so much threat with the Halo Blades, it just feels too good at the moment. And the fact that he did almost as much as Wako doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, because later on in the game as well, it does become harder and harder for Kalista to find auto attacks in these fights. That was never the issue for the Ashe. Always able to throw out those Ws against the low range composition of DCG and out damaging everyone else except for Cascada. But it will be Minji taking the MVP, getting his hands onto the Sylas pick. I mentioned, hey, coming into this mid pool will come down to Talia, Sylas. Sylas shows up in game 1, Talia gets banned away, and the difference is clear.
One of his best champions in the regular season as well. I feel like for Minji, there's going to be a lot more respect given over by Deep Cross Gaming in game number 2 to whether he gets this champion. 200% gold out of damage out of gold, excuse me, as well, is just an incredible stat. So Minji again playing the better Swain, Minji playing the better mid laner, and BYG bouncing back in an early game that seemed pretty doomed when Hana started DCG off with a 2-0. But Nightstar, we're going to go to a break, see if Deep Cross can actually have a response, or if BYG are somehow unstoppable as we continue with playoffs.